The bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death, was the single most devastating event in human history. It caused over 50 million deaths in Europe alone, and of course, there were deaths in many other places surrounding Europe. The disease was characterized by swollen lymph nodes that were often blackened in color. These lymph nodes became known as buboes, hence the name the bubonic plague. These buboes were found mainly in the armpit and groin region of a patient, but of course they could be found anywhere that a lymph node could be. The blackened color was due to the gangrened tissue of that area, as the infection caused your body to die off slowly. This blackened color helped come up with the nickname the Black Death. In order to get the disease, you needed to be bitten by a flea. It may seem simple, but it wasn't that simple. You see, this flea had to have a bacteria, and this bacteria came from smaller mammals, such as rats and cats, but most often they were rats. This bacteria is called Yersinia pestis, or Y. pestis for short, and after the flea feeds off of one of these smaller mammals, a rat, they could go on and feed off of a human. After the flea bites this person, the bacteria will infest their bloodstream and cause a rapid infection. This infection created the buboes, and when the buboes burst, it would often become a highly contagious area. The origin of Yersinia pestis is not entirely known, but genetic analysis dates the bacteria as being over 2,600 years old. Territorial origins for the outbreak are also unclear, and despite its near ancient status, it was discovered in 1894, almost 550 years after the European pandemic. Y. pestis was discovered by Alexandra Yersin, hence the name Yersinia. Alexandra was a young scientist during the discovery of Y. pestis, at just the age of 22 years old. He was studying underneath Emile Rowe during his Y. pestis discovery. He discovered Y. pestis during a Hong Kong trip with Emile during the 1890s pandemic outbreak, the 1890s plague outbreak. After the outbreak, Alexandre helped found the Institute of Pasteur in Nha Trang, Vietnam. He continued studying bacteriology as well as Y. pestis until he passed, because that is what he enjoyed doing with life. He loved the medical side of science, but refused to go into the medical field because he hated having people pay him for helping them fix their medical problems. How does Y. pestis, or the Black Plague, affect today's world? It continues to affect people worldwide, with, in America, over the last decade, there have been an average of 7 cases a year. The largest victim of the bubonic plague is Africa. But the 3 most endemic countries are the Democratic Republic of Congo, Madagascar, and Peru. These 4 places have many cases a year due to the nature of the countries. The bubonic plague caused more deaths than any disease in its time and even in current time. It is unrivaled by anything people could have possibly imagined, but that's due to the lack of medical knowledge they had back then. The damage that a single flea could cause was unfathomable, and it still is crazy to think that back then, a single tiny animal was enough to take the life of millions of people. All of it was due to Yersinia pestis and its incompatibility with the human bloodstream. Alexander Yersin was a revolutionary scientist. He helped develop a cure for the bubonic plague and was highly renowned, especially in Vietnam. He was buried in Nha Trang and had a shrine placed next to his grave which was a great honor for anyone who was a foreigner, especially anyone who was a white foreigner like him. The medical industry has evolved a great amount since the 1300s, so much so that there is a full cure for the bubonic plague, and all a patient needs to do is take a couple of rounds of streptomycin, an antibacterial medication.